What's up, good people? Precious S. Carter here. I hope all is well. So, a question that I get asked very often this time of the year. Okay, I'm Precious. I am a vision and strategy coach. I am a woman of God, God-fearing woman, a prophet of God. And I help Christian women align with the God-sized vision for their life and eliminate barriers that stop them from getting there and create a strategy to make it happen. Okay. I have a coaching program. It's called Kingdom Vision Academy. Um, I think I'll be opening again in January around my birthday. Okay. So the question that I am here tonight to answer is, what does the God size vision for my life look like? I get that question a lot, obviously, because I talk a lot about vision and I talk a lot about boundaries. I used to do a vision board party every year, but it kind of morphed into a vision writing party because I find that to be better for me. I find it to be better because as I'm going through my coaching program with my clients, before we do a vision board, we write out the vision for your life in great detail. And then from that, we take small little points and goals and we create the vision board for the year based off of that. Okay. So I'm going to go through, I think I got up to 10 points about what the God-sized vision for your life will look like. And I'm going to use the story of Esther because I do think that we are living in such a time as this. Like, I think that this is the epitome of such a time as this. And I think you are called for such a time as this to be a change agent, to be a transformer, to be a pathfinder, to be a waymaker, to be a trailblazer. This is the time we need you. So you got to stop being scared. Okay. So number one, your God-sized vision for your life, you most likely don't look like you are now or you ever will be equipped for that. And this is at the beginning stages, right? And so when you think about Esther, and I'm using Esther again because I think we're living in such a time as this time. And that was just the direction that I chose. But you could probably insert any Bible great and find some of these same characteristics for what God called them to do. So, like I said, number one, you most likely don't look like you are or you ever will be equipped for this. You have to remember Esther was an orphan. She was orphaned. She was living with her uncle. Her parents had died, and she had this vision of actually going. It wasn't even something that she wanted to do. She actually wanted to go back to her land. She wanted to be with her people to serve God because they were in a foreign country. So she was an orphan. She was a foreigner, and she didn't know anything about the customs of being presented before this king. And so she had to go through a great deal of preparation in order to even get into the running, to even, get into position to go before the king. So number one, you probably don't look like you're equipped. Your life, you probably have been like an underdog, and people really didn't expect much from you. They didn't think that you would be they didn't think that you would be someone that God would trust to do the things that he's called you to do and to have the impact that he actually wants you to have impact in this earth. Number two, you don't do things the way that other people do, yet favor just seems to follow you and you don't even understand it. So sometimes people might even dislike you because of the favor that you have on your life. If you recall, like Esther was a really pretty, she was a pretty woman. She was well favored. She was very kind. She was giving. She was generous. And to be honest, like a lot of people, and by the way, I'm a person who reads the Bible and who tries to study it in a way that, I humanize people in the Bible. Like I literally humanize people. And so I would just imagine that, again, I don't want to act like I read this, but I know for me, I was born, like most people know this, like I was born in prison. I didn't have anything that people would necessarily need to be jealous of me about, but for some reason, the favor of God has literally kind of always followed me, and I never really understood it. And I dealt with a lot of jealousy in my day, and I never really could understand why. But it really had nothing to do with me, more to do with the call that God had on my life, and more to do with the enemy that's very real that we all have, that looks to divide us, that looks to have us dealing with spirits of rejection and feeling inadequate, so that we become distracted and we never really fully live out the the thing that God has us to do on this earth. So Esther, she was like I said, she was an orphan. She was living with her uncle. But when we get down to chapter 2, verse 15, I hope I wrote this down. It said, like, she didn't do, okay, so all the ladies who went in before the king, they decked themselves out in all of this jewelry. They, they went in like all dolled up, like some of the women do when you go out. And then for some reason, she went in with just a simple thing, like whatever it was that Haggai gave her. It was very simple, and yet she found a favor in the sight, according to Esther 2:15, she obtained favor in the sight of all of them that looked upon her. So she was taken into the king, into his house in the 10th month, and the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all of the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head, and he made her queen. Again, she went in unadorned. She didn't look like everybody else, but the favor of God was on her, and she was put into position. So number one, you most likely don't look like you are cut out for the assignment. And number two, you don't even try to do it like everybody else does. Number three, you are of a pure heart and you keep a record. So if you remember, the next thing that happened was Mordecai, her uncle, was just kind of sitting in the gate, and he heard about a plot that, what his name was, like Admantha and somebody else were having to kill the king. And he made it known to Esther, and Esther used wisdom, and she certified that. She told the king of the plot, and she made sure to say where she heard the plot from. And, and she didn't have the wisdom to know that it would come out to work in Mordecai and the Jews' favor at that time, but she had wisdom, and she was able to do that, and Mordecai's name was recorded. And this is going to come back later. We're not going to talk about it, but it's going to come back later to show why it's important for you to do the things the ways you do. Okay. Number 4, the vision that is a God-sized vision, is not something that you can do in your own power. So Mordecai, okay, so there was a guy named Haman, I believe that was his name, that the king kind of made a prince over all the princes, and he wanted to be praised. And yeah, so he wanted to be praised and he wanted to be honored as a king. But Mordecai, who was a Jew, he wouldn't bow to him. He would only bow to the one true and living God. And so that kind of made Haman mad. So, where am I? Okay, so it's not something that you could do on your own. So he was mad. And so then he set out this edict. So he went and talked to the king. He gave him a story and told him that there was a group of people who refused to bow to him. He told him that they refused to bow to the king, not him, as in Haman. And so the king was like, okay, what do you want to do? And he made this plot to kill all of the Jews at a set time. So because of that, we are now in about, okay, so it's not something that you can do on your own. So he went to make this plot to kill all of the Jews. And so then Hatak, so then Haman went to the king, Ahasuerus, and the king said, "Do what you want to do." So then he set out this edict to kill all the Jews, and then Mordecai got upset. He rent his clothes. He began to like just be in mourning. He had ash all over his head. He couldn't go into the gate, but he did send word to Esther, and he told Esther, and this is why it can't be done your own. He told Esther about what was happening, and Esther was like, "What you want me to do about it? The king hasn't called for me, and I cannot go before him." So she did not have the ability to go before the king. So your vision is not something that you could do in your own power. So then number 5, your vision is going to affect your life and the life of others. Like your lives are going to depend on it. So when we get down to Esther 4 and 13, so Esther at this point is like, I can't go before the king. So then we get to 13. Mordecai was like, don't think that you are going to escape the king house more than the rest of the Jews. Like, don't forget that you are a Jew. Don't forget that you are a foreigner. God put you in this position for such a time as this. How do you not know that you are the one that can change this for the generation? So, number 6, your God-sized vision is going to require some supernatural assistance, and it's also going to require you to be bold and fearless. So now we're down to Esther 4 and 15, and Esther bade the people to go back and tell Mordecai to answer. And basically Esther said, I just need everybody to fast with me. I'm going to go before the king. For God I live, for God I die, basically. So in 5:1, it says, now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel, and she stood in the inner court of the king's house, having not been summoned. And he sat upon his throne, and of course he saw her because he loved her. He gave her favor, and he touched the top of her head with his scepter. And he asked her what she wanted, and she told him that she wanted a feast with him and Haman. Now Haman still is not satisfied. This man, like, you done been called to a feast with the king and his wife. She only called you to, but he's still so upset because this one man, that's how proud do you. This one man would not bow to him, right? And so Esther had to be strategic. So she told the king that she wanted to have the feast and she wanted to be for him and Haman. So number 7, you're going to have to be strategic. Number 8, you're going to have to reveal your truth, something that you have had hidden. So for example, Esther had never told her husband or anybody that she was a Jew because Mordecai had instructed her not to. Well, now we're at the point where the lives of like the Jews are about to be wiped out of here because this man is mad because another man won't bow to him. Isn't that crazy? Like he's so mad that a man won't bow to him that he wants to kill a whole group of people, like a whole nation of people. That's crazy. It's actually demonically insane. So now Esther is going to have to reveal her truth to her husband in order to save her people. So now we're down to Esther 7. So the king and Haman came to Esther's banquet, and the king again said to Esther, what is it that you need? What is your petition? And Esther said, if I found favor in your sight, let my life be given to me at my petition and my people at my request. And then the king was like, who presumes in his heart to hurt my baby? And she was like, him. The adversary is Haman. And then Haman got scared. And so the king left, and somehow he fell on the queen's bed. I think he was maybe apologizing, or maybe, I don't know. But he fell on the bed. And so when Haman walked back in there, he was like, are you going to force yourself on my wife too? Ain't that kind of crazy? So anyway, she was strategic. She told her truth, which it could have cost her life because the king had already given this edict to kill all of the Jews. So, but instead, Esther had this favor on her because God gave her this assignment. So anyway, Haman had created, he had these gallows built for Mordecai to be hung on. We didn't even get, and I'm not going to talk about it, but Haman had to parade Mordecai through the streets with all this high praise because he thought he was about to get a reward for himself, but he wasn't. But anyway, so number 9, the next thing is the God-sized vision for your life will bring honor to a nation of people or to a group of people, and it will free people. So Haman got hung on the gallows that he had set up for Mordecai. Esther, as a result, was able to be like, hey, what are we going to, like, he wants to kill me and kill my people. And so she went back to her husband again. So now they're free from this plot of this enemy that wants to kill them. But because of the weight of the king's word, he can't go back and change his edict. So her next question to him was, number 10, your God-sized vision is going to teach and is going to equip the people to fight for themselves, to fight for their freedom. So what happened was he could not go back on his word because he's a king. You couldn't go back on the word as a king. But what he did do was he sent out another word to equip the Jewish people to be able to fight on that day. I think it was like the 13th day of Adar. He sent out an edict to equip the children, the Jews, so that they could defend themselves, keep their property, and even take the spoil of the people who were trying to eliminate them. So your God-sized vision for your life is something that you can't do on your own. The God-sized vision of your life is something that you won't, like, you in and of yourself, you'll be able to get it done, but you won't get it done the way other people have done it before you. You're of a pure heart and you have wisdom and you keep good records. The vision is not something that you can do in your own power. It's going to require some supernatural assistance. It's going to change your life, and it's going to change the life of others. Like, your life depends on it. So if it requires a supernatural assistance, boldness and fearlessness. It's going to require you to be strategic. It's going to require you to reveal some things about yourself in order to help and save others. You're going to bring honor and glory to your nation. You're going to free your people, and you're going to equip people on how to fight. Now, you might be thinking, girl, God told me to open a boutique. That don't have nothing to do with it. But let me tell you, there is something very powerful about making men and women look and feel good and to be equipped for the work that God has them to do. Because we are ambassadors for the kingdom of heaven, we do have to look, feel, think, and act a certain way. And so there is no business, or there is nothing that God has given you for your life to do that is going to be insignificant. Everybody's assignment is vital to someone else. It's vital to expanding the kingdom of heaven. So don't minimize yourself because you're not doing something that people think is necessarily big or life-changing. Because I'm telling you right now, whatever it is that God has designed for you to do is going to be big, impactful, and life-changing for the kingdom of God. Okay? So if you have any questions, please drop me a comment. And this is Precious as Caller. Make sure you are following me and subscribing to this channel. And also you can find me on every social media at Precious as Carter. Or I think one of them might be at Precious as Carter 1. But I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.